Howdy folks, once again, it's Donnie, back with yet another thrilling episode in your favorite reality TV drama, Red Hat versus the Clones. And of course, by now, I think we all know the basic plot, which is that just over a month ago, toward the end of June 2023, somebody at either Red Hat or parent company IBM decided to just suddenly take the source code for Red Hat Enterprise Linux, and I mean suddenly and without any warning. They just took that source code and put it behind a paywall so that only customers of Red Hat could get to it. And then, of course, there was also that little clause in the Red Hat customer contract that says that if any customer exercises his or her rights under the GNU public license to share out that source code, then Red Hat will just cancel their contract and will no longer let that customer use Red Hat software. So yeah, and of course the reaction from the free, as in freedom software community was predictable. People just were not happy. There was a lot of wailing and gnashing of teeth, and of course I covered that in previous videos already, so I'm not going to go into that in detail. But the basic problem with all of it is just the fact that Red Hat Enterprise Linux, just like any other Linux distro, is released under the GNU public license. And it has to be because it uses the Linux kernel, which is also released under the GNU public license. So the GNU public license, which from henceforth I'll just refer to as the GPL, is supposed to protect the freedom of the software users. And it's also supposed to prevent this sort of thing from happening. So anyway, and I've covered that aspect more in detail in previous videos too. So if you want to see more about that, then just check out my previous videos. Go to my channel, and you'll see them under the news and commentary playlist. But anyway, in this video, I want to look at the reactions from the Red Hat clone makers. And I want to look at some aspects that other commentators haven't picked up on, I haven't mentioned. And the responses from the Red Hat clone makers really fall into two categories. On the one hand, you have the confrontational responses, which is just about everybody. And on the other hand, you have one lone clone maker who's taking a more conciliatory approach, who's promising to work with Red Hat and always to stay on good terms with them, right? But anyway, on the confrontational side, you first had Rocky Linux, who stated that, hey, they found other ways to get the Red Hat Enterprise source code, by way of Docker images and by on-demand cloud images or cloud instances. And they vowed that they were not going to observe or to recognize the Red Hat user agreement. And they said that their legal teams assured them that, hey, they don't have to. There's nothing Red Hat can do about it. So anyway, they said they're going to continue on as they always have by providing a bit for bit, or as they like to call it, bug for bug, exact clone of Red Hat Enterprise Linux. And so hopefully that'll work, hopefully that'll work for them. I mean, we don't know. I mean, maybe Red Hat will find some other technical way to prevent them from getting the source code. I don't know, but I don't know. I don't really see how. But anyway, the other confrontational response, or the second confrontational response, I should say, is from Oracle. And it was quite interesting, rather comical, because, when Red Hat finally made the announcement, made the blog post that revealed what they had done in moving the source code behind a paywall. It was by a guy named Mike McGrath, who was one of the vice presidents of Red Hat, and he's basically just whining and moaning about how people are using these clones in order to avoid paying for Red Hat Linux and all that. And I mean, and he's saying, look, if people keep using these clones for free, how are we supposed to pay our developers who are and engineers who are creating this great Red Hat distribution, right? Okay, this is $1 billion company whining about that. Okay. Yeah, you can't make this stuff up, okay? And but anyway, the response from Oracle, and it was comical. I mean, they were just excoriating not Red Hat but IBM, the parent company, for violating the user's software freedoms and violating the trust of the free software community, all that stuff. And then at one point they said, hey, IBM, if you don't want to pay your Red Hat engineers, then feel free to just use us as your upstream. We'll just go ahead and maintain it for you, and we'll gladly assume that load. So you got Oracle. Oracle standing as the champion of software freedom against that evil Red Hat. Oh, that reminds me, if you excuse me just a moment, I need to make a phone call here real quick. Hello, Oracle? Yeah, I got a little problem here I was hoping you could help me with. It's just that I was needing to download an image for OpenSolaris to set up on a couple machines. And I went to your Oracle website, and I can't find the download links for OpenSolaris anyplace. I was wondering if you could help me out with that. What? You mean you discontinued OpenSolaris? You killed it off? And now Solaris is all proprietary and closed source? Wow, when did that happen? Oh, it's one of the first things you did after you bought Sun Microsystems and inherited the OpenSolaris project, huh? Okay, well, I guess I'll just have to go with Open Indiana then. Okay, thank you very much. Goodbye. Yeah, but seriously, folks, it's Oracle. Oracle. Not exactly always been a champion of software freedom. They killed off OpenSolaris just soon after they bought Sun Microsystems, and now they're standing as the champion of free software against the evil Red Hat. You can't make this stuff up. You just can't make it up, okay? And then another response came from SUSE. They released a blog post that, again, just was excoriating Red Hat for not respecting the rights of the software users, not respecting the GPL. And of course, legally, completely legally, I don't know if this is a actual legal violation of the GPL. That's something up for the lawyers to decide. But at the very least, it's a violation of the spirit of the GPL and of the spirit of free, as in freedom software. And so SUSE, they were getting after him about that, right? And then a little bit later, we got the news that SUSE had decided to invest $10 million to set up a foundation that would create not a clone of Red Hat Enterprise, but a brand new distro, a brand new Linux distro that would be completely compatible with Red Hat Enterprise Linux. So we don't have any details of that. Nobody knows yet what form that's going to take. Now, to get my attention, though, it's got to be not only compatible with Red Hat in the sense that it'll run any any commercial software that corporations need that are certified for Red Hat, it's also got to have the same built-in security features that Red Hat Enterprise Linux has. And I'm talking about things like SE Linux and FA Policy D and OpenSCAP with the full range of SCAP profiles, stuff like that, before it'll get my interest, okay? If it doesn't have any of that, it's not going to get my interest. But anyway, we'll see. We'll see what happens. We don't know just yet. And then on the other side, we have AlmaLinux, the only one of these majors. And I should mention, too, there are actually more Red Hat clone producers than just these. There's EuroLinux and a few other minor players, Springdale Linux. I haven't checked with them to see what their responses are yet, so I don't know. They're so minor, who cares? Who cares at this point, okay? So anyway, AlmaLinux, they've decided to play nice with Red Hat, because one of the things that Vice President, or Red Hat Vice President Mike McGrath said in his Poison Pen blog post was look, you want to take the source code for CentOS Stream and make that into your distro? Hey, go right ahead. Go right ahead. We don't care about that. We just don't want you making an exact clone of our Red Hat Enterprise Linux and then have people using that for free instead of buying a Red Hat license. So anyway, the problem, of course, with CentOS Stream is that whenever any type of bugs come up in Red Hat Enterprise Linux, they don't always get backported back to CentOS Stream, because CentOS Stream is supposed to be upstream of Red Hat Enterprise Linux. Okay? So if you got like security bugs or whatever else, they'll get fixed in Red Hat Enterprise Linux, but they won't always get fixed in CentOS Stream. So anybody who's using CentOS Stream as a base for a new Linux distro is not getting those bug fixes. But the AlmaLinux people decided that they were going to go ahead and rebase AlmaLinux on CentOS Stream instead of the Red Hat Enterprise source code. And as part of that deal, they said, well, we're just going to go ahead and make our own bug fixes. All right? We'll do our own bug fixes, and then we will push them back upstream to the CentOS Stream, and so that Red Hat can access them. And they also said that they're still going to make their new AlmaLinux ABI compatible, which means Application Binary Interface compatible with Red Hat Enterprise Linux, even though it won't be bit for bit or bug for bug clone of Red Hat Enterprise Linux. So that means that by basing it on CentOS Stream, of course, they are still going to have all of the cool, unique security features that will be in Red Hat Enterprise, so that's good. And they're making it Application Binary Interface compatible, which means it's going to run all of the software that's been certified to run on Red Hat Enterprise Linux. So that's good too. Now, here's the interesting part about that. If you go, just create a CentOS Stream virtual machine and look in the CentOS Stream repositories, you're going to find that there are some special categories of software packages called SIGs, which stands for Special Interest Groups. Now, in these SIG repositories or sub-repositories, whatever you want to call them, you have lots of cool software packages that are not included in Red Hat Enterprise Linux. So I'm talking about things like a bigger selection of distributed file systems and hyperscaling solutions and the entire Samba 4 suite, okay? In Red Hat, well, as far as Samba 4 goes, in Red Hat Enterprise, you get just a subset of the Samba 4 packages. So you get enough there to set up a Samba file server, a print server, and an old-style Windows NT domain controller, but you don't get all that good stuff that you can use to set up a Microsoft Active Directory type domain controller, okay? That's all in the packages that are in the CentOS Stream SIG. And of course, one of the holy grails of the Samba people for many, many years was to have was to be able to create a version of Samba that could be used to set up an Active Directory domain controller, right? So by tapping into the CentOS Stream repositories now, the AlmaLinux people have access to all this cool software that's not included in Red Hat Enterprise, which means that they could take it and they could stabilize it and make a product that's better, that has more features than Red Hat Enterprise Linux. Ooh, imagine that, yeah? Imagine that. And also there is a company called TuxCare, and I don't know much about the TuxCare company. I just know that they're out there. They provide certain support services. And for most Linux distros, from what I've been able to tell, all they do is just provide like software patching services. But for AlmaLinux, it appears that they have a deal where they provide full support services for AlmaLinux. And so I don't know how they compare to the Red Hat support services, whether it's more competitively priced, whether it has all the features of the Red Hat support services or anything like that. I just know it's there. But let's say to AlmaLinux now, they're taking their AlmaLinux, basing it on CentOS Stream, and they're adding all these cool new software packages that are not in Red Hat Enterprise Linux, making a product that's more full-featured than Red Hat Enterprise Linux. And then TuxCare comes along and says, hey, we can offer a support deal that's better than Red Hat Enterprise Linux. Imagine that. What's going to happen with Red Hat then? Don't know. So anyway, that leads us to another kind of interesting aspect here, and that's the fact that Red Hat really has been its own worst enemy. They keep shooting themselves in the foot, and as one commentator said, if you keep shooting yourselves in the foot, you're going to run out of feet. So, yeah, I think they might be running out of feet. But anyway, let's take the example of Oracle Enterprise Linux, which is kind of a clone of Red Hat. It's not an exact clone because they use their own kernel, and if you look in the Oracle repositories, you'll see that a lot of packages that have slightly different names than the equivalent packages in the Red Hat repositories, but still, it's mostly a clone. Now, why did Oracle create this almost clone of Red Hat Linux? Well, according to an article that I read quite a few years ago, it all happened because of a little falling out that Oracle had with Red Hat, because there was a time when Oracle and Red Hat had teamed up to have Red Hat supplying the operating systems and operating system support, but they were using the middleware from Oracle. So they were supplying the middleware as part of their support packages to the large corporations. So Red Hat was making money, Oracle was making money. Hey, they were all happy, right? Well, that worked until Red Hat decided to dump Oracle. They dumped the deal with Oracle, and they bought a company called JBoss, which offered middleware solutions that were competitors with the Oracle solutions. So it was right after that that Oracle went ahead and created their own clone, or well, almost clone of Red Hat Enterprise Linux, and they started offering their own support solutions. Okay, so so yeah, so maybe can we say revenge move? I don't know. I'm not in Oracle's head. I wasn't there when it happened, but according to this article, that's what happened. That was the reason for it. Okay, that was the reason for Oracle Enterprise Linux. So anyway, we got that. So and really, if Red Hat had not dumped Oracle as a partner, who knows? Maybe Oracle would never have tried to take that revenge upon Red Hat. Maybe Oracle would never have bothered to create that competitor to Red Hat Enterprise Linux. We don't know, but I'm thinking that's a good possibility. So, if that is the case, though, if that's why Oracle did that, then we can say that Red Hat created their own competitor in this case. Okay? And then before Oracle, though, there was CentOS. And CentOS has been around for a long time. And originally, and yeah, a lot of people were using CentOS. I won't dispute that. But was it really a big threat to Red Hat? Because for a very, very long time, the CentOS project consisted of just a ragtag bunch of volunteers who were basically doing this on their spare time. And they were constantly late with getting updates out. So like, for example, let's say that Red Hat were to release a 0.2 upgrade, going from 0.1 to 0.2 upgrade on a version upgrade for the Red Hat Linux. It would take weeks, sometimes even months, for the CentOS people to get the update out. And if you go on the CentOS forums, go back in time on the old CentOS forums, you'll actually see people who are complaining about how long it took for CentOS to get their updates out. And the CentOS maintainers said, hey, look, we're just a bunch of volunteers here. If you need updates in a timely manner, you go to Red Hat and buy a Red Hat license, because we can't really help you with that. And plus, there was a lot of drama in the CentOS project too. Like there was this one time when the guy who was the head project leader of CentOS decided to just disappear for a while. Just completely disappeared. And it just so happened he was the only guy in the whole organization who had the credentials for GitHub in order to perform software commits. So for several weeks, while this guy had disappeared, nobody at the CentOS project could do software commits. Again, you can't make this stuff up. Okay? Yeah. But then, what did Red Hat do? Well, they decided, for whatever reason that I don't really understand, there's some speculation that they wanted to keep the CentOS project out of Oracle's hands. Maybe that's true, I don't know. But for some strange reason, they decided to just absorb the CentOS project and make the CentOS project part of the Red Hat company. Once they did that, the CentOS project was a well-oiled machine. It just became a well-oiled machine, well-run organization, and they started keeping getting their updates out in a timely manner, almost as soon as Red Hat got their updates out for the Enterprise Linux, and so everything was good. The Red Hat company made the CentOS project into a strong competitor. So then in 2018, while they were part of the Red Hat company, CentOS released CentOS version 8, which came almost immediately after Red Hat released Red Hat Enterprise Linux version 8. And the Red Hat personnel assured everyone that both Red Hat Enterprise Linux 8 and CentOS 8 would be supported for a 10-year period, and which meant that both of them would be supported until sometime in 2028. Well, that didn't last. In 2020, the Red Hat people, they announced that they would discontinue support for CentOS 8 at the end of 2021. Okay, so that didn't sit well with the free software community either, needless to say, because Red Hat made a promise and then they reneged on it. So, and again, they released, well, they didn't really release a blog post about it this time, but people, journalists, from some of the tech sites went and interviewed some of the Red Hat executives. They did some off-the-record interviews. One of the executives were complaining, oh, well, Red Hat is only a $1 billion company, but if it weren't for CentOS, we'd be a $10 billion company. Again, whose fault was that? Red Hat. Y'all made CentOS the strong competitor that it became. If y'all would have left them alone, maybe that would never have happened. Oh, I don't know. Again, you can't make this stuff up, okay? And so then the Red Hat people said, oh, well, if you really need a free of charge Red Hat clone, then we will leave the Red Hat Enterprise source code in its normal repository where it's always been, and anybody who wants to can go ahead and download the Red Hat source code and make their own distros. Okay? They actually said that. So what happens? You have AlmaLinux and Rocky Linux downloading the source code, making their own distros. Now fast forward to 2023, and Red Hat's whining about the fact that these people took them up on their invitation. I don't know. I mean, again, you just can't make this stuff up. All right? So now what's happening? Okay, so you've got SUSE and Alma who are positioned to make their own Red Hat type distros from the CentOS stream, as the Red Hat people invited them to do. And there is the potential, the possibility that these new Red Hat compatible distros will be better than Red Hat Enterprise Linux. And there's also the potential that both of these companies could offer support that's better than that comes with Red Hat Enterprise Linux. We don't know yet. It's just one of those things we'll just have to wait and see. All right? But again, Red Hat did it to themselves. They shot themselves in the foot again. They are creating their own competition because they're being stupid. That's the only way to put it. They're being stupid. I don't know. But anyway, the final question I want to discuss is, will this hurt or help the Red Hat company? Well, one of the reasons, well, the main reason they gave for trying to kill off these Red Hat clones, the way they're trying to do, is that they want to enhance their revenue. They want to basically coerce people who are using the free of charge Red Hat clones into switching over to Red Hat and paying for a Red Hat license. Well, I don't have a crystal ball, but I'm going to go out on a limb and predict that that's not going to work. I don't think they're going to see one extra penny of revenue from this move. And the reason is because in the first place, we've already seen the Red Hat clone makers are not giving up. So we've got Rocky, who has vowed to stay the course and to keep producing the exact Red Hat clones from the software that they'll obtain from other means, or from the source code that they'll obtain from other means. And then we've got Alma and SUSE out there, threatening to make Red Hat compatible clones, not clones, but Red Hat compatible distros that might even be better than Red Hat Enterprise Linux. And of course we got Oracle out there, who's not going to give up either. Okay, they're just going to strengthen their resolve to be better competitors. And so yeah, these clones aren't going away. And the people who had reason to use the free of charge Red Hat clones before are still going to have those reasons. Okay, yeah, there might be some of them who just don't want to pay, for Red Hat, and there might be some who can't pay for Red Hat. And then, of course, there are the people like me who are the content creators and book authors, who need these free of charge clones because there are things we can do with them that we can't do with a Red Hat license. I mean, even if I were to pay for Red Hat, I can't do with the actual Red Hat what I can do with the Red Hat clones in terms of spinning up unlimited numbers of virtual machines and stuff like that, right? But yeah, they're not going away. They're not going away. So yeah, I don't think this is going to help them one bit. Now, is this going to hurt Red Hat? Well, in one sense, it already has. Red Hat, and by extension, IBM, have completely destroyed their reputation as good citizens of the free, as in freedom, software communities. Okay? I mean, it is gone. Nobody in the free software community will ever trust either Red Hat or IBM again. That's just the way it is. All right? And so, yeah, they've destroyed their reputations there. And that might mean that maybe they'll get a lot less cooperation from other people in the free software community. I don't know. And financially, though, will it hurt them? In the short term, no. In the short term, it won't hurt them a bit because, as a viewer pointed out in a comment to the previous video, and he's in a position to know because he's an IT worker in the enterprise space, and he says that as far as he can see, no corporations are going to dump Red Hat because of this, right? And you can't expect them to, because the corporations, they don't really care about free as in freedom software. All they care about is getting a product that does what they need to do and getting the support that they need. That's all they care about, right? And so, yeah, in the short term, it's not going to affect Red Hat at all. In the long term, and I'm talking about years down the road, maybe decades, I don't know. But in some years down the road, this could hurt Red Hat. Because, as I said, Red Hat, just by being stupid, by just doing all these completely idiotic things, they're creating their own competition and strengthening the competition. Right? I mean, makes no sense that they're doing all this stuff, but it's what they're doing, right? So yeah, eventually these competitors could come in and displace Red Hat as these corporate contracts expire, and if Alma or SUSE or Oracle or whoever else comes up with better operating systems than Red Hat Enterprise Linux with more features, better support, then yeah, these corporations could start displacing Red Hat with these competitors. And this is not unprecedented because, there was a time not that many years ago when Novell was the king of corporate networking, okay? And where's Novell now? I mean, Novell had really the lion's share of the networking market for corporations, right? I mean, you want to set up a network in a corporation back in the day, you'd go with Novell, okay? But then Microsoft came along with Windows NT and Windows NT domain controllers. And they could do things that Novell could not do with their Windows NT domain controllers, right? Much better control over your fleet of computers, your fleet of workstations, fleet of servers, all that. Novell couldn't match them, okay? And trust me, I know. I used to work in a Novell shop, okay? I wasn't impressed. And then after the Windows NT, Windows brought out Windows Active Directory, which offered even more features than the Windows NT domain controllers, right? And so, so that shop I was in, that was running on a Novell network, they would have been a lot better off if they would have dumped Novell and just gone with Windows Active Directory, okay? Yeah, it was, that particular shop it consisted of a bunch of or a fleet of Windows 2000 workstations running on the Novell network, and it wasn't good. Okay, if they'd been running Active Directory instead, they could have had it set up so they could have had centralized control over all the workstations. Done automatically applied operating system updates from one central location. All that, they couldn't do anything like that with Novell, right? So it's kind of crazy, I was actually an office clerk at the time. It was my job to do the updates on all the operating systems or all the Windows 2000 computers in our office, because basically the support for each individual office consisted of whoever in the office thought he knew something about computers. But anyway, I digress. But yeah. The point I'm trying to make is that, yeah, if these competitors come up with something better than Red Hat Enterprise Linux and come up with better support than what Red Hat has to offer, yeah, they could end up displacing Red Hat. But it's not going to happen anytime soon. It's going to be years before that happens, okay? So, yeah, who knows? But anyway, the final thing I want to touch upon real quick, and this is something I've covered in detail in previous videos. I don't want to go into it in detail again here, but I'm only doing it because somebody left a comment on a previous video about how this Red Hat Enterprise source code belongs to Red Hat, so it's their right to do as they please with it. Well, that's not strictly true, because as I said before, the bulk of the code that goes into any Linux distro, including Red Hat Enterprise Linux, was written by other people, by other software projects. And Red Hat did like every other creator of a Linux distro does. They just took all that source code, never paid a penny for it, and put it into their own Linux distro. Okay, there are a couple of exceptions to that, okay? So in a way, they are paying for the Linux kernel because they are dues-paying members of the Linux Foundation, which pays Linus Torvalds to maintain the Linux kernel. But, and there was an instance several years ago where the Linux Foundation basically shamed Red Hat and a few other companies into providing some financial support for the OpenSSL project. But other than that, they're not paying for any of that source code. Okay, they just took all that source code, made it into their own distro, which is their right to do because it was all released under free software licenses. Okay, and yeah, Red Hat has contributed original code, but still, the entire distro is released under the GNU public license, which is supposed to guarantee the software freedom, right? And I said before too that, Red Hat knew going in to this business that they were going to have to be good players, good citizens of the free software community. And when you are trying to make money in the free software business, then you need to have a business model which will allow for that. And Red Hat did find that business model. basically supplying support services for corporations, okay? And they became a multi-billion-dollar company because of that, all right? And now that they're whining, I mean, and as I said, they're doing so much to hurt themselves. They're just creating their own competition by doing really stupid things all the time. I mean, as I keep saying, you can't make this stuff up, okay? But anyway, folks, don't worry. Be happy. Don't worry. Be happy. It's all going to work out, okay? If you're a free software advocate and you're dismayed about what's going on, it's going to work out. Just don't worry about it. Don't lose sleep about it. Don't let yourself become too angry about it. And I just hope things work out for everybody. I hope it even works out for Red Hat. You know, I don't wish them even any ill will. And hey, you know, let's hope that Red Hat does not become the Edsel of the Linux world, eh? Yeah, a little automotive history for you there. Anyway, folks, that's it for that. The last thing, the very last thing I want to mention is that I do have some books which you could purchase. And first one here, this is called Mastering Linux Security and Hardening. It's now in its 3rd edition. And if you are in the business of maintaining Linux systems, I don't care what distro you're talking about, then you need to know about security, okay? You need to know how to harden your systems to make them just as hard to compromise as you possibly can, right? Keep the bad guys out, folks. You ought to keep those bad guys out, really. All right? And then the other book is called Linux Service Management, Made Easy with System D. Yeah. And this is not a book about System D. This is the book about System D because it is the only one ever written. So, doesn't matter what Linux distro you're dealing with, if you're in the enterprise, if you're in any small business, if you're any place where you need to maintain Linux systems, you need to learn System D. This is the only book on the market which covers the entire System D ecosystem. I mean, other books you might find, yeah, or tutorials, they'll show you the easy stuff, the basic stuff about you know, how to start and stop services, stuff like that. No, this book, we cover the entire thing. System D timers, how to deal with Network D, which is the default in some Linux distros, and Journal D, and lots of other stuff, lots and lots and lots of other stuff besides. And as I said, this book covers, oh yeah, C groups. You got to know about C groups. If you want to do some resource control, you got to know about C groups, okay? But yeah, this book covers the entire System D ecosystem. And the cool part about it is that the System D is implemented consistently across all Linux distros, so it doesn't matter what Linux distro you're dealing with, as long as it's got System D, this book can help you out, okay? So anyway, folks, I think that's pretty much it. So as I said, don't worry, be happy. Over and out, folks. I'll see y'all next time.